The steering wheel shook in Emma Carter's grip. Her sleek black sedan groaned like a wounded animal, then jerked violently before rolling to a dead stop on the shoulder of Interstate 95. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a hiss. Smoke billowed from under the hood, curling into the cool autumn air like a cruel joke. Emma glanced at her watch. 8:32 a.m. Her heart sank. Her board presentation, the one that would decide whether her months of work on a new hiring strategy would finally get funded, was at 9. 9. Not 10. Not whenever you get here. 9. She closed her eyes, pressing her forehead against the steering wheel. Her pulse drummed in her ears. Not today. Not like this. With trembling fingers, she grabbed her phone. A quick call to roadside assistance. A dispatcher's voice, polite but useless. Earliest we can get to you is about an hour, ma'am. Emma almost laughed. An hour. By then the meeting would be over, the opportunity gone. Her carefully built reputation reduced to whispers about Emma, the one who couldn't even show up. She swallowed hard. Her scarf, silk, perfectly knotted this morning, now felt like a noose. She tugged it loose, fighting the rising tide of panic. A notification chimed on her phone. Her calendar reminder. Board presentation. 30 minutes. The sound felt like mockery. Then, tires crunching on gravel. Emma's eyes snapped up. An old pickup, paint faded to a tired shade of blue, pulled up behind her stranded car. The driver's door opened with a rusty creak. Out stepped a tall man. Worn jeans. A gray t-shirt. Sunburned arms with old scars like road maps of a life spent working with his hands. He walked with a calm, unhurried gait toward her window. Emma's city instincts screamed caution. She lowered her window only halfway. "You in a bit of trouble there?" he asked, voice edged with a soft southern drawl. The sound of it disarmed her more than she expected. His face was weathered, but not unkind. His eyes, clear, steady, seemed to carry a warmth that cut through her tension. "My car just died," Emma admitted, her voice thinner than she wanted. "I called for help, but they won't be here for at least an hour." The man glanced at the smoke rising from under the hood, then back at her. "Mind if I take a look? I'm decent with engines." He extended a calloused hand, like an afterthought. "Name's Robert." For reasons she couldn't explain, Emma trusted him. Maybe it was the quiet confidence in his stance. Maybe it was the absence of judgment in his tone. "I'm Emma," she said softly, stepping out of the car. "And yes, please. I'm already late for a meeting that could change my career." Robert gave a single nod. No further questions, no unnecessary chatter. He walked to the hood, gesturing. "Pop it open. Let's see what we've got." Emma pulled the release. Steam hissed as Robert lifted the hood and leaned in. He rolled his sleeves up, revealing arms marked with old burns and grease-stained scars. These weren't the hands of a hobbyist. These were the hands of someone who had lived inside machinery. Emma stood back, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She watched him work. He didn't fumble, didn't hesitate. Each movement was practiced, efficient. After a few minutes, Robert straightened, wiping his brow with the back of his wrist. Cooling systems failing. Fuel pump too, by the look of it. His tone was matter-of-fact, almost apologetic. "I can fix it, but it'll take me a couple hours." Emma's heart dropped again. 2 hours. 2, maybe 2.5, if I got the parts in my truck. He studied her face, her tight jaw, the way she bit her lip. "Or, you can wait for the tow." No offense taken. Emma glanced at her phone again. Waiting meant a tow. A garage. Days without her car. She imagined herself begging the board for another meeting. "No. Impossible." "Please," she said, surprising herself with the urgency in her voice. "If you can fix it now, I'd be grateful." Robert nodded once, then walked back to his pickup. He returned with a battered metal toolbox that looked older than she was. He set it down with a heavy clang and went to work. Emma called her assistant, whispering frantic instructions to stall the board if possible. Then she leaned against her car, watching Robert's methodical rhythm. Tools clinked. Bolts loosened. Steam curled. "You really know what you're doing," she said after a while. Robert chuckled without looking up. "Hope so." Been doing this since I was 14. That was all he offered. Then silence again, filled only by the scrape of metal, the occasional hiss of air, and the steady hum of traffic rushing past. Emma checked her phone again. Messages piling in, her chest tightening. And yet, her eyes kept drifting back to Robert. Something about his steady focus steadied her. Nearly 2 hours later, he exhaled, long and relieved. That should do it. He shut the hood with a solid thud. Try starting her up. Emma slid into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine purred, alive, smooth, effortless. She nearly wept with relief. Climbing out again, she reached for her purse. "Thank you. Please, let me pay you." She pulled out crisp bills, hands shaking. Robert held up his hands. "Don't need your money, ma'am." "Glad I could help." Emma frowned. "No, really. You've saved me hours, maybe my entire career. Let me." He shook his head, pride flickering in his eyes. Then, after a pause, he added with a half-smile, "Though, I wouldn't say no to breakfast. Skipped it this morning." Emma blinked. Then remembered the sandwich she had packed for later. Turkey and avocado on fresh artisanal bread. She pulled it from her bag. "Would you take this?" Robert looked at the sandwich, as though it were more valuable than the money she'd offered. He accepted it carefully, almost reverently. "That's mighty kind of you." Something about the way he said it, the quiet dignity, tightened something in her chest. Without thinking, Emma reached into her bag again, pulling out a sleek business card. "I'm the HR director at Meridian Motors. If you ever need anything at all, call me." Robert tucked the card into his pocket with a nod. "Better get going to that meeting," he said, stepping back. "Drive safe now." Emma thanked him again, slipping into her car. As she pulled back onto the highway, she caught a glimpse of him in her rearview mirror, standing by his pickup, the sandwich cradled in his hands. The engine roared beneath her, but her thoughts drifted back to him. The stranger with the kind eyes and the scarred hands. The man who had asked for nothing and seemed grateful for so little. She arrived at her company nearly an hour late. Somehow, she convinced the board to reschedule her presentation for the afternoon. She made it through the day, but her mind kept circling back to the man in faded jeans, standing in the morning light, holding her sandwich as though it were gold. That night, in her high-rise apartment, Emma sat by the window with the city glittering below. She couldn't explain it, but the memory of Robert's eyes lingered. She found herself opening her laptop, searching. Robert who? Robert where? But all she had was a name, and a mystery she couldn't shake. What kind of man gives so much and asks for nothing in return? The mystery of Robert's past is planted. Suspense builds for Chapter 2, her search for who he really is. Morning sunlight bled across Emma Carter's apartment, but she barely noticed. Her laptop screen glowed in the dim light of her living room, tabs multiplying as she chased a name that felt like smoke in her hands. Robert. That was all he'd given her. Robert, who fixed her car. Robert, who refused money but accepted a sandwich with quiet gratitude. How do you find a man like that? How do you search for someone who doesn't want to be found? She typed his name into every search box she could. Page after page of results, thousands of strangers. Nothing that matched the man with the scarred hands and the weathered smile. She almost gave up, almost closed the laptop and forced herself to focus on her presentation slides. But something inside her, call it curiosity, call it instinct, refused to let him go. By mid-afternoon, Emma remembered something. The truck. The old pickup. Faded blue, rust along the wheel wells. She had caught a glimpse of the license plate when she pulled away. A jumble of letters and numbers that had stuck in her memory. Her pulse quickened. She had connections. Years of HR work had given her access to people in the Department of Motor Vehicles. She sent a discreet message, careful, professional, like she was simply following up on a hiring lead. An hour later, the answer slid into her inbox. Robert James Walker. Address, Oakwood Gardens. A modest apartment complex on the edge of the city. Emma sat back, staring at the name. Robert Walker. The mystery had a face, now a place. But who was he? That evening, Emma dug deeper. What she found startled her. Robert Walker wasn't just a man who knew his way around engines. He had once been a senior mechanical engineer at Continental Automotive, one of Meridian's fiercest competitors. His name appeared in patent filings, engineering journals, even a few press releases. Brilliant. Respected. On track to lead entire departments. Then, 3 years ago, silence. His career ended abruptly. No record of steady employment since. Just odd jobs, contracts, gaps. Emma frowned. What would drive a man like that, a man with so much talent, to vanish from the industry? She kept scrolling, her breath catching when she stumbled on a small-town newspaper article, tucked away in the archives. Local engineer loses wife to cancer, raises daughter alone. The photo was grainy, but clear enough. Robert younger, but unmistakable, his arm wrapped around a little girl. Her hair in braids, eyes wide, kind, and hauntingly familiar. The caption read, Robert Walker with his daughter, Lily. Emma's throat tightened. She skimmed the article. His wife, Anna, had died after a brutal fight with pancreatic cancer. Robert had left his high-powered career to care for his daughter. He hadn't just walked away from engines. He had walked away from everything. Emma closed her laptop, but the image of that little girl lingered. Her small smile. Robert's arm wrapped protectively around her. And Emma felt something she hadn't expected. Guilt. She had thought of him as just a stranger who helped her on the road. But now she saw the weight he carried, the sacrifices that defined him. The next morning, Robert sat at a small kitchen table in Oakwood Gardens, a chipped coffee mug in one hand, a pencil in the other. Across from him, his daughter Lily leaned over her math workbook, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Daddy," she asked, her voice soft but certain, "if 9 times 6 is 54, what's 9 times 7? Robert smiled, the tired lines on his face easing. 63. You're getting faster." Lily grinned, scribbling down the answer. Her ponytail bobbed as she looked up at him. "Can we have pancakes tomorrow? Friday's a celebration day." Robert chuckled, glancing at the old watch on his wrist. The same one Anna had given him on their 5th anniversary. "I think we can make that happen, sunshine." He helped her pack her homework into a worn backpack, one he had patched and stitched more times than he could count. Life was simple, sometimes hard, but it was theirs. Then a knock on the door. Robert frowned. Visitors were rare, especially at this hour. He opened the door and froze. Emma Carter stood there, tailored blazer, hair neat, eyes bright with something between nervousness and determination. "Robert," she said, her voice soft but steady. He blinked. "Ms. Carter." "Emma," she corrected quickly, with a small smile. Lily peered around her father, curious. "Daddy, who's that?" Emma knelt down, her polished heels clicking against the floor. "Hi there. I'm Emma. Your dad helped me yesterday when my car broke down." Lily beamed with the fearless pride of a child. "Daddy can fix anything. He used to build whole cars before Mommy went to heaven." The room fell silent. Emma's chest tightened at the raw truth in the girl's voice. Robert cleared his throat, breaking the moment. "Lily, grab your lunch. We'll head to school in a minute." As she scampered off, Robert turned back to Emma, his jaw tight, his eyes wary. "How did you find me?" Emma hesitated. "Professional hazard. I work in HR. Finding people is part of my job. I hope you don't mind." She drew in a breath. "I came here with a purpose." Robert leaned against the doorframe, suddenly conscious of the worn t-shirt he wore, the peeling paint behind him. "All right," he said quietly. "Say what you came to say." Emma looked him straight in the eye. "You were a senior engineer. You have patents. A career people would kill for. And yet you walked away." His face hardened. "That was another lifetime. But it doesn't have to be." Her tone softened, almost pleading. "Meridian Motors is looking for someone to lead our new electric vehicle division. After watching you work yesterday, I believe you're that person." Robert let out a short, humorless laugh. "Emma, I left that world for a reason." They walked together, Lily skipping ahead toward the school down the block. Emma kept pace beside him, What if you didn't have to choose? She asked softly. Meridian has a flexible work program. You could work from home part of the week. Set your hours. Be there for Lily. And still build again. Robert stopped, staring at her, searching for insincerity. But all he saw was earnest conviction. Why? He asked finally. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Emma held his gaze. Because talent like yours shouldn't be lost. Because my company needs you. And because yesterday you spent 2 hours helping a stranger without asking for a thing in return. That's the kind of person I want building the future. They reached the school gates. Lily turned, waving. Daddy, don't forget the class party next week. Miss Emma can come too. Robert's heart twisted. He looked at Emma, torn between past pain and future possibility. I can't make promises, he said at last. But I'll hear you out. Emma's smile lit up the gray morning. That's all I ask. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. interview. As she walked away, Robert stood rooted on the sidewalk. His daughter's laughter echoed from the schoolyard. His chest tightened. For the first time in years, he felt something stir. Hope. Robert agrees to hear Emma out, opening the door to a possible future. But his past still holds him back. The glass and steel tower of Meridian Motors shimmered in the autumn sun. Its mirrored facade reflected a world Robert Walker no longer felt part of. He stood at the base of it, tugging at the tie his neighbor had loaned him. A tie too bold, too clean, too much. His palms were damp, his breath shallow. Behind those revolving doors waited a world he had abandoned. A world that had kept spinning without him. What am I doing here? 3 years of patchwork jobs, fixing leaky sinks, repairing old tractors, taking whatever paid enough to keep the lights on. 3 years of mornings at a chipped kitchen table, helping Lily with her homework. 3 years of being dad first, everything else second. And now this. Daddy. Lily's voice replayed in his mind from the night before. You should go. You're happiest when you talk about engines. That had been enough to get him here. To try. The revolving door spun. Out stepped Emma Carter, every bit as polished as yesterday, yet softer now, with warmth that felt like armor loaned to him. Ready? She asked, her voice calm. Robert gave a stiff nod, though his heart hammered like a piston. They walked through the lobby, past sleek marble floors, and the hushed shuffle of professionals in tailored suits. Robert felt their eyes flick toward him, a stranger in a borrowed tie, carrying nothing but old knowledge and calloused hands. Breathe, Emma whispered as the elevator rose. You belong here more than most. The interview room was large, sterile, intimidating. A long glass table. For panelists, the engineering director, the CTO, 2 project managers. Each one with notebooks open, pens poised. Emma introduced him, then stepped aside, taking a seat at the edge of the room. Watching. The questions began immediately. Technical. Sharp. Designed to test. For the first 10 minutes, Robert's throat tightened with every word. He stumbled through one answer. Fumbled with another. The tie choked him. The fluorescent lights glared down. Then, a question came from the CTO. What do you see as the biggest innovation needed for the next generation of electric vehicles? Robert froze. He could feel the panel waiting. And then something shifted. His hands, almost on instinct, reached for the marker by the whiteboard. May I? He asked. At their nod, he stood. He began to sketch. Lines curved. Shapes formed. Battery configurations, airflow designs, modular structures. His voice steadied as he explained, the fear dissolving into something else. Passion. The panelists leaned forward. Pens scratched rapidly. At one point, the engineering director actually rose from his chair, moving closer to study the diagram. This configuration, Robert explained, tapping the whiteboard, reduces heat strain by 15% and cuts production costs by almost a quarter. I've been refining it well in my free time. The room fell silent. Emma's lips curved into the faintest smile. You developed this alone? One project manager finally asked. Robert hesitated, suddenly self-conscious. It was just a thought experiment, something to keep my brain alive at night, after Lily went to bed. The CTO exchanged a glance with the director, a glance Robert couldn't quite read, but Emma could. She saw recognition, respect. The rest of the interview shifted. No longer interrogation, conversation. They debated materials, timeline estimates, battery longevity. For the first time in years, Robert's voice carried excitement, conviction, certainty. By the time the interview ended, nearly 2 hours later, Robert's sleeves were rolled up, his hands stained with dry erase marker, his heart racing with something he hadn't felt in years. Belonging. Emma walked him back to the lobby. Her heels clicked across the polished floor. His boots felt loud and out of place. That, she said, unable to contain her grin, was brilliant. I've never seen Martin, our engineering director, get out of his chair for anyone. Robert chuckled, though it came out rough, uncertain. Regardless of what happens, it felt good. Just to talk engines again. Emma touched his arm, gently. Don't sell yourself short. They saw what I saw. Before Robert could reply, her phone buzzed. She glanced down, then back up, her eyes sparkling. They've already made a decision. His stomach dropped. That fast. She nodded. Yes. They want you. Senior Engineer, Electric Vehicle Division. Immediate start. Salary above industry standard. Flexible work arrangement. Robert blinked. The words washed over him, almost unbelievable. Salary, benefits, stability, the chance to build again. And yet, his mind snapped to Lily, to late afternoons at the kitchen table, to class parties, to bedtime stories whispered in the dark. Could he balance both worlds? Or would one devour the other? Emma saw the storm in his eyes. She lowered her voice, steady and firm. This isn't charity, Robert. It's recognition. Talent like yours deserves to be shaping the future. And our program was built for parents like you, people who need both family and work to coexist. You won't lose Lily in this. You'll gain a chance to show her who her father really is. Robert's throat tightened. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then finally softly, I'll need to talk to her. Emma smiled, relief flickering across her face. Of course. Family first. Always. That night, Robert sat at their small kitchen table, the offer letter open on his phone. Lily leaned on her elbows, her eyes wide as he explained. A real engineering job? With cars, she gasped. Robert nodded. It would mean more hours than I work now. Some days, Mrs. Garcia might need to watch you after school. Things would change. Lily frowned, serious beyond her years. But you'd be happy again, right? Robert swallowed. I think I would. Then do it, she said firmly, her little hand wrapping around his. We can handle it, Daddy. Together. Her words sliced straight through his doubts. Out of the mouths of babes. Later, after she was asleep, Robert drafted his response. His finger hovered over send. His heart pounded. Then click. The email flew into the ether. His choice sealed. Moments later, his phone rang. Emma's name lit the screen. I just saw your acceptance, she said, breathless, almost giddy. Robert, this is the beginning of something extraordinary. He laughed softly. We'll see. Her voice warmed. How about ice cream this weekend? My treat. You and Lily. A little celebration. Robert hesitated, then smiled. In that case, how could I say no? That night, long after the lights were out, Robert lay awake. The offer swirled in his mind. The future, uncertain but vast, stretched before him. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like he wasn't just surviving. He was starting again. Robert has said yes, but will the return to corporate life heal his wounds or reopen them? The building buzzed with energy, polished shoes clicking across marble floors, voices rising in hurried conversations, elevator doors opening and closing in a constant rhythm. Once, this had been his world. Now it felt strange, unfamiliar, but also exhilarating. Emma met him in the lobby. Not the HR director today, not the polished executive. Instead, she carried the air of someone genuinely proud. You ready? She asked, her smile carrying both reassurance and expectation. Robert adjusted his jacket. Ready as I'll ever be. She guided him through the halls. His office, an actual office, with glass walls and a view of the test track, felt impossibly luxurious compared to his cluttered kitchen table back at Oakwood Gardens. "Welcome back to the world of engines," Emma said lightly. Robert stood at the window, watching as prototype vehicles streaked along the track below. His throat tightened. "Feels like I never left, and yet, like I've been gone a lifetime." The first weeks were overwhelming. Corporate systems had evolved, software had changed, and the politics of management were as sharp-edged as ever. But the moment Robert's hands touched designs, the moment he sketched out models or debated airflow efficiency, the old fire roared back. His colleagues noticed. At first, they approached him with polite curiosity. Then, with genuine respect. The CTO even introduced him in a team meeting as the mind behind our next-generation battery solution. Every night, Robert returned home with a mind buzzing, ideas spilling out faster than he could capture them. Lily would wait eagerly, her backpack tossed in the corner. "What did you build today, Daddy?" Her voice was always bright, her pride disarming. He would sit at the table, sketching crude diagrams on scrap paper, explaining in the simplest way he could. Lily's eyes shone as she listened, absorbing every word. "You're a car builder again," she whispered once, hugging him tightly. And Robert realized she wasn't just proud. She felt safe, secure. Emma checked in often. At first, it was weekly meetings, her HR formality intact. But soon, it became daily visits. Sometimes to discuss a candidate. Sometimes to brainstorm diversity initiatives. Sometimes just to talk. Over time, their conversations shifted. Less about policy, more about people. About balance. About Lily. "You've turned our flexible work policy into more than just a slogan," Emma said one afternoon as they sifted through resumes. "When you advocate for it, people listen. Because you live it." Robert smiled faintly. "I'm just trying to make sure others don't have to choose the way I did." Emma tilted her head, studying him. "That's exactly why your voice matters." For a moment, their eyes lingered on each other, a silence not uncomfortable, but charged with something unspoken. 3 months later, Robert received his first quarterly bonus. The number stunned him. It was enough. Enough to move Lily out of Oakwood Gardens. Enough for her to have her own room. Enough for dreams he had buried to stir again. The new apartment was modest, but bright, in a neighborhood with a better school. Lily painted her walls purple, her favorite color. She skipped through the hallways like a bird set free. On moving night, Emma arrived with takeout boxes and a bottle of wine. "No executive dinners tonight," she teased. "Tonight we celebrate." She insisted on helping unpack. She folded Lily's clothes, stacked books on shelves, and even hung a few frames on the walls. Lily adored her, proudly dragging Emma into her new bedroom to show her the purple paint. "Miss Emma," Lily said with the wide-eyed earnestness only children carried, "you should come over more. Daddy burns toast." Emma laughed, a sound that filled the apartment. "I'll keep that in mind." Later, after Lily was asleep, Robert and Emma sat on the small balcony. The city lights stretched out before them, a patchwork of possibilities. "Thank you," Robert said quietly, "for all of this." Emma shook her head. "You earned it, Robert. I just opened a door." He turned to her, his voice low. "Maybe. But I don't think I'd be here if not for you." For a long moment, neither spoke. The city hummed around them, but their silence felt like its own world. The months slipped into a rhythm. Robert poured himself into his work, and yet he no longer sacrificed fatherhood. The flexible program Emma had promised was real. He picked Lily up from school, attended her recitals, made pancakes on Fridays, a ritual he refused to surrender. And slowly, a new version of himself began to emerge, not just an engineer, not just a father, but a man who could balance both. Emma was part of that balance. She became a constant presence, at work, in their lives, in Lily's laughter. She wasn't just an HR director anymore. She was a friend, a partner in thought, a steady hand on his shoulder. One evening, after a long meeting, she stopped him in the hallway. "You know," she said softly, "you've changed the way people see this company. Not just your team. All of us. Because you remind us what matters." Robert held her gaze, something stirring deep in his chest. Funny. I was about to say the same about you. The seasons shifted. Winter turned to spring. Robert thrived in his role, his designs pushing Meridian's EV division forward. And yet, beneath the professional victories, another current ran. Every shared glance with Emma, every dinner she joined, every laugh that slipped between them when Lily wasn't looking. Something was growing. Slowly, naturally, quietly. Robert felt it. Emma did too. But neither dared put it into words. Not yet. One night, as Robert tucked Lily into bed in their new apartment, she blinked up at him. "Daddy," she whispered, "do you like Miss Emma?" Robert froze. "Why do you ask?" Lily shrugged, her little face serious. "Because when you look at her, you smile different." His heart thudded. He kissed her forehead. "Get some sleep, sunshine." But as he stood in the doorway, watching her drift into dreams, her words lingered. "You smile different." Robert and Emma's bond is undeniable now, but will either of them risk saying what they feel? A year passed. And in that year, Robert Walker rebuilt not just his career, but his life. Meridian's new electric sedan, powered by his revolutionary battery design, was already making waves across the industry. Pre-orders shattered records. Trade journals called it the boldest leap in EV innovation this decade. But more than the headlines, it was the small things that mattered to Robert. The night of Meridian's annual gala arrived, shimmering with the weight of celebration. Robert adjusted his tuxedo, a real one this time, bought not borrowed. Beside him, Lily twirled in her new dress, purple ribbons woven into her hair. "Do I look okay, Daddy?" she asked, her eyes wide with expectation. Robert's throat tightened. "You look beautiful, sunshine. Your mom would have been so proud." Lily smiled, reaching for his hand. "She is proud. I know it." When the elevator doors opened at the Grand Regency Hotel, Emma was waiting. She wore a midnight blue gown, simple yet breathtaking. Her usual professional polish softened into something radiant. "Well," she teased, her eyes sparkling, "don't you two clean up nicely?" Lily ran forward, hugging her without hesitation. Robert followed, slower, struck by the sight of Emma like he was seeing her for the first time all over again. Together, they entered the ballroom, chandeliers glittering overhead, the hum of laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. The CEO's speech came midway through the evening. He praised Meridian's most successful year, the electric sedan at the heart of it. And then he called Robert's name. Robert stood under the lights, applause rising around him. He gave a brief, humble nod, words catching in his throat, but in the crowd, he found Emma's face. Her silent pride steadied him more than the ovation ever could. At their table afterward, Emma reached beneath the white tablecloth and squeezed his hand. No words, just a quiet acknowledgement, a silent promise. Later, as Lily chatted animatedly with board members, her questions about engineering charming the room, Robert and Emma slipped onto the balcony. The city glowed beyond them. A chill hung in the air. Emma leaned lightly against the railing. "Have I told you lately that you're the best hiring decision I ever made?" Robert chuckled. "Only once a week." He turned to her, more serious now, his voice low. "But have I told you that you're the best thing that's happened to me and Lily?" Emma's eyes softened, glassy in the dim light. "Robert, I mean it," he said, his hand brushing against hers. "What you did, stopping that day, opening this door, becoming part of our lives, it changed everything." Emma blinked, her composure faltering just slightly. "You know, before you and Lily, my life was all quarterly reviews and corporate metrics. You reminded me why I chose this path in the first place. To help people. To matter." Silence stretched between them, not empty, but full. The city hummed below. The music drifted from the ballroom. Robert thought of the small velvet box tucked away in his desk drawer at home. Not tonight, he told himself. But soon. Very soon. The next morning, their world felt different. Not because of grand speeches or sparkling galas, but because of pancakes. The tradition endured. Lily whisked the batter. Robert flipped the cakes. Emma, still in her borrowed guest room robe, sliced fresh fruit at the counter. It was ordinary, Domestic. Beautiful. Sandwiches for lunch? Lily asked brightly, carefully pouring syrup over her stack. Since sandwiches are kind of our family thing now. Emma laughed, glancing at Robert. She has a point. Robert smiled, warmth flooding his chest. Sandwiches it is. He looked at the two of them, his daughter, his unexpected partner, and felt a truth settle over him. The smallest acts of kindness, the briefest choices, could change everything. A car breaking down. A stranger offering help. A sandwich. From those fragile beginnings, a new life had unfolded. A second chance. Life turns on the smallest moments, a flat tire, a kind gesture, a door opening when you least expect it. But what do you think? Do we find second chances by accident, or do we make them, one small choice at a time?